every single one of the companies within the technology space has faced the same situation, which is the recognition that brand is not just product, but brand is product plus the conversation people are having about your product. And if you're not engaging in that conversation, the brand will be created for you.
I'm really happy to be back to get to speak with our first speaker, or to chat with our first speaker of the day, an old friend, Antonio Lucio. Welcome back, Antonio, to BRITE.
It's so nice to be here with you, David. Good morning from the West Coast, and my greetings to all the. I was just fascinated to see all the people that were joining from every part of the world, including Ukraine. So our heart and support is there as well.
Absolutely. We've got a really tremendous international audience, and so glad that everyone, Ukraine, Malaysia, Istanbul, I saw all sorts of folks all over the world are able to join us. One of the benefits of this different kind of conference experience for this year. So Antonio, I actually had to go back and look. I was like, my God, what year was that I first had Antonio when I was, had started BRITE in one of the early years, and I invited you, and we had just, got to know each other around that period of time. It was 2011, so more than a decade ago, 11 years ago, that we were on the stage in Lerner Hall. And so great to have you back. Things come in circles. Antonio is such an amazing person. He's, for anyone interested in the subject of marketing, has so much to offer and share with us to learn. He's, spent 40 years as a marketer, early career at Pepsi, rose, through the ranks to become, I think it was Chief Innovation and Portfolio Transformation Officer, which is not only impressive title, but really interesting when I look back at that, because I'm actually going to be speaking on campus on Friday with PepsiCo's current Chief Chief Transformation and Strategy Officer, talking about digital transformation at that company. So from your, not so humble beginnings at Pepsi, when you spoke at BRITE 11 years ago, you were the Global Chief Marketing Officer for Visa, which was at a really interesting point in its history. It was fairly newly a public company, and so really building out and establishing itself as a consumer brand. Went on from there to be the Global Chief Marketing Officer of HP, again at a point of evolution in that business. Hewlett-Packard had just split in the enterprise versus the consumer side. And then, more recently as the Global Chief Marketing Officer of Facebook until late 2020. Along the way, not surprisingly, Antonio's been recognized by many, many good folks for his work, his example, his generous teaching in so many different ways of others. He's been a regular on sort of Forbes list of influential CMOs. I think it was just last month, Antonio was inducted into the Marketing Hall of Fame by the American Marketing Association, and he's been celebrated frequently and with very good reason, particularly as a champion of diversity in marketing and the field of marketing and advertising by organizations like the ANA, the 3% Conference, Ad Color, Ad Week, many others. So, when we were recently catching up, a couple of passions of Antonio's came up, which I thought would be really fun for us to take this time to talk about. One is his passion for marketing transformation. And this is something, as we chatted about, it's never done. Marketing keeps having to reinvent itself because the world, particularly in the digital age, keeps reinventing itself. And the other, as I spoke to, is the importance and the power of diversity and inclusion within marketing, certainly within any aspect of business, but that being really sort of, Antonio's, where he has sort of devoted himself and continues to. You're serving on the boards of 4 different companies, which, as you shared with me, are all kind of very focused on marketing transformation right now. And so a great fit for them to invite you on the boards. And with your own organization, 5S Diversity, you are leading and launching some really amazing new programs focused on diversity and inclusion. So I want to talk about kind of those two topics if we can, and a bit about each, and take questions from folks on each of those two topics. So please, as Matt mentioned, for everybody who's in the room, use the Q&A question and answer function within Zoom. You can both pose a question there. You can also just pop in and see what other people have asked, upvote questions. I'll be looking for what are the questions people are most interested to hear, and I'll be bringing those in as well. So first topic, first passion, marketing transformation. So let me just, first ask you to sort of give us your perspective. What do you think, Antonio? What does marketing transformation look like today? What is the kind of transformation that you see existing marketing organizations need to make, or what are they?
Well, David, as you said, again, thank you for the invitation. I've been in this business now for 40 years, which were amazing. But I think there are two words that we need to get rid of. One is within the context of marketing. One is transformation, and the other one is digital. For the last 40 years, I've been transforming, and for the last 40 years, I've been using digital as the medium to actually do so. But again, going back to some of the conversations that you've had, and you're very disciplined academic in this particular field. For me, marketing transformation is nothing more than the mindset and capabilities to deliver the brand promise to your customer by leveraging all available relevant means. And by all available relevant means, I normally means information or data, channels, and then experiences. So if I break it a bit more into what do we mean by mindset is living in line with your mission within the context of customer obsession and with a competitive spirit, because you want to have this done better than anyone else. Mm-hmm. That's mindset. When I talk about capabilities, I'm talking about the right information capabilities, the right channel capabilities, and then the right ability to actually translate all that insight into action. For that, you need people, you need infrastructure, and you need processes. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to finish with the people part of it, which is the most important one. I think that the world in which we're living requires true Da Vinci type of people, Renaissance people that can move from science into art in a seamless sort of way, where you are able to digest all the insight required to actually translate into experiences that delight. So that thing of, we have the scientist on one side and we have the artist in the other. I hope that we get rid of that particular concept. And then the last part is that, yes, these are Da Vinci people, but people that represents the communities that we serve. Because at the end of the day, we live in a multicultural world, and marketers should be a reflection of the consumers that they particularly serve. So that's kind of the way that I looked at the whole marketing transformation piece.
So I feel, Antonio, like I must have maybe unconsciously emailed you some early drafts of the book I'm writing right now, because one of the key themes is exactly what you said. How do you sort of bring together, as I think about it, the sort of culture and capabilities, as you said, mindset and capabilities, and that it's both a matter of, having people with skills, technical and otherwise, certainly marketing, creative, as well as technical ability to facilitate use data, new tools, et cetera, apply them effectively towards marketing outcomes. But it's also a different kind of mindset, as you said, in line with the mission, customer obsession, having that competitive spirit. I see also increasingly, and I'm just curious.
There's also an additional component of it, if you don't mind me interrupting, because please. I think it's important within the context of what you guys are trying to do at Columbia. One of the fundamental issues that I'm really worried about, particularly after going through the several transformational experiences, as you mentioned, at Visa, I was their first CMO into a publicly traded company. At HP, it was the first one as a split, and then at Facebook, the first time that all the apps came together into one organization, which is I fundamentally believe that we need more STEM education in the world to be able to tap into everything that we're talking about here. You know, everything related to information channels, all that type of stuff. But we are going to have to balance that with the humanities. Because at the end of the day, the leaders that you guys are raising, the leaders that are participating in this conference are going to be responsible for, yes, creating the right experiences within the context of information, channels, and experiences, but they're also going to have to ask to be able to answer some of the fundamental issues related. What is the purpose of business? What is privacy? What is within the context of the universe? What does it mean to exist? These are some of the fundamental humanistic questions that we have asked of ourselves forever. And now within the context of the new world where science and technology has gone so far ahead of our ability to absorb them, our leaders are going to have to actually step up and begin to answer those questions. So you're going to need, within the context of the Da Vinci model, people that are truly scientists, but also shaped in a very deep humanistic formation.
And that's, would you agree that's a real different kind of set of challenges, or a different mandate for, you know, marketers as well as, you know, business leaders broadly than maybe when you started your career? I mean, was that on the agenda to be thinking about what does it mean to exist, or maybe a little more specific to marketing? You know, what is the meaning of privacy? You know, what is the purpose of business? These questions that are really becoming very critical as we're facing, you know, different kinds of challenges as organizations and the environment around us, whether it's, you know, war, instability, polarization within societies, but also as technology is pushing us, you know, things like, you know, artificial intelligence and some of the areas that, you know, Bernd Schmidt is doing a lot of research on now, is really pushing us to sort of think about, you know, what can be done and why should it be done, and, you know, what should be done and why. How do we make those decisions? It seems like kind of a different role, or a different.
It is, and I will summarize the role, David, in marketing. When I started, was about brand equity, meaning how does your brand perform relative to competition within the context of its category.
Yeah.
I think that in order to be successful today in marketing is about not just about brand equity, it's about trust. Trust is not only within the context of your competitive set and your category, but it is about the connection that your product, your category has to the overall society in which it serves. It is a significantly higher order. And that is why having that combination of science, technology, and humanism becomes so incredibly important. The new generations are, I don't buy you if I don't trust you. And I only trust you based on your actions. And by the way, your actions have to do with your product, but also with broader actions that have to do with society, whether it is with your employees, the actions that you take in the global arena, and whether there is consistency between your words and your actions. So in that world, in this sense, the equation has become a bit more complex, and it's a bit different, but honestly is the most interesting time ever to actually do so.
Yeah, it's fascinating, the questions we have to sort of juggle and balance and keep asking at this stage as leaders. I want to pull in a question from Amanda Moskowitz in the chat. She asks, for your perspectives, thinking about marketing, is there a difference, or what are the differences you see between a more technology focused and I guess sort of maybe intangible services kind of company like Facebook, versus your experience at HP, where you're dealing with, you know, tangible consumer goods people purchase, you know, and you ship and sell, and maybe people have a different kind of relationship to the brand, to the purchase decision, and so forth. You know, from your point of view, thinking about strategy and thinking about that, to bring it back to the topic you just raised, trust. Did you experience, does that sort of look a little different in those different sort of businesses?
Yeah, so there are two dimensions to that particular question. One has to do with actually the fundamental bigger difference is between the consumer good world and the non-consumer good world, and we're going to talk about that. And then the second part of that question has to do with what she calls the intangibles, which is, let's call it social media, the fundamental difference there. And I honestly, from the outside looking in, I didn't realize the scale of businesses in the social media world is unheard of. I mean, when you have a franchise of over 3 billion people, the issues that everybody wants to try to solve become significantly complex, because, by the way, it's not just the US perspective, which is a polarized country. It is a global world, and every country has its, so it becomes significantly much more complex. So the questions that I was talking about, whether there are questions of technology, whether there are questions of infrastructure, or whether there are questions of ethics, become significantly more intense, because there is no government in the world that has that level of franchise. So that's one area. The other one, which is that what I do think that there is a fundamental difference, is marketing in the consumer good world, where I spent 50% of my career, and then marketing in the non-consumer world. The biggest difference, David, is that marketing was born in the consumer good world, and marketing has a seat at the table. There is a clear link as to the need for marketing to actually drive the revenue line. And the chair is there. The only questions that people will ask in any of the consumer good companies is whether Antonio is the right person for the chair or not. In the non-consumer good world, the chair is not obvious. And marketing, which in the consumer good world meant real direct impact on product, on value exchange, on distribution, and on engagement. In the non-consumer good world, those responsibilities are completely fragmented, because it is born out of a mindset that product is brand, brand is product, and if you fix the product, you don't even have to deal with the brand. And then every single one of the companies within the technology space has faced the same situation, which is the recognition that brand is not just product, but brand is product plus the conversation people are having about your product. And if you're not engaging in that conversation, the brand will be created for you. So whether you're talking Amazon, whether you're talking Apple and their issues in China, whether you're talking Facebook, you're talking Twitter, you're talking all of them have gone through the same thing, and then they all come to, oh my God, we really need to create our narrative and begin to engage with consumers so that they can at least understand where we're coming from. But there's not a clear understanding of what that means. Is that PR? Is that advertising? Is that, and then the responsibilities are fragmented. You have growth marketing, which is click to buy. You have product
performance
marketing,
driven, right?
You have brand marketing, and you have comms. So as you move from one place to the other, the first thing that you have to do is to acknowledge that, to earn a seat at the business table, and then to begin to integrate, either structurally or through influence, all the different dimensions so that you can live up to your promise.
Fascinating. I think a really insightful point about the seat at the table and kind of why historically that is so different. And I think really a great point of view on how companies that are sort of digital native, these what we think of as the tech giants, you know, the moment of wake up has arrived, where everyone sort of realized, oh gee, it's not just something the product manager can solve, but yeah, sort of figuring out how do these disparate pieces, is it like PR, is it, you know, communications, is it performance, you know, driven ads. These aren't just separate silos that should be run in a disconnected fashion. We could keep going all morning on this topic, but I really want to get to the second topic, which I mentioned at the top, which is the incredible work you've been doing for many years now, but particularly maybe some of the projects that you're doing right now under 5S Diversity on really sort of championing and pushing and supporting and driving an agenda and sort of building a movement, I would argue, around diversity and inclusion, and particularly in the field of marketing, because that's where you are so connected and have so much influence and experience. So, I mean, I'll start with sort of the obvious question, but just I'd love to hear your point of view. You know, why is it that diversity and inclusion are so important to this field, to marketing for any business?
Yeah, David, the business case for diversity and inclusion has been proven time and time again. Every single consulting group in the world has clearly established that if you have a diverse board, if you have a diverse C-suite, if you have a diverse marketing ecosystem, you are going to have significantly better results. And the reason for that is obvious. If you have a representation of the people that you're serving, you're going to have better work, better products, better experience, and better communication. So I don't know how many more trillions of dollars we're going to need to demonstrate in annual studies by all these firms in order to prove the case. The issue is that it is hard. It is hard because you're changing status quo. It is hard because you're going to have to establish a transformation. And by the way, I happen to think that companies that are undergoing this digital transformation actually have the capability actually to create spaces for different profile of people. My work, a lot of people are doing a lot of things on many areas. Most of the efforts have been driven to bringing women and people from underrepresented groups. In the US, that means Blacks and Hispanics. In other places of the world, that means exclusively women, and so on and so forth.
Right.
A lot of great work is being done at the entry level. My point in all this has been that if we're just going to wait for the entry levels to achieve the C-suite, the transformation is going to take decades. Yeah. I am not even going to be alive, and my daughters, I have 5 daughters that are coming up. So
it's not just the top of the funnel problem. It's not just a recruiting and bringing in the right interns.
In fact, the biggest issue is at the middle. How do we identify and develop people as middle managers? Normally, that's 2 levels below the CMO, so that they're identified, they're trained, and they can become successful. So during my work, that normally means people that have succeeded in the workforce, regardless of who they are, men, women, whatever. They normally have had 4 things. One is capability at the functional level, which is what we're talking about here, but more importantly, leadership capability. All the research done within the space will tell you that women and people from underrepresented group do not get as much training on leadership as their counterparts. So that's one point. Second point is community. And by community, I mean not community inside the company, although inside the company it helps. It's a broader community of people outside of your company that are on your same boat. And that's really important, because if you're from an underrepresented group, if there are not many women in the C-suite in the consulting field, for example, having access to other women that are within that particular field outside of your company provides best practice, provides support, and doesn't allow you to feel isolated. The third, I separate the concepts here. Mentors. By mentors, I mean people outside of your company that get to know you deeply and are going to help you by asking the big questions. Where are you? What are you trying to accomplish? Do you have the right balance in life? Is it time for you to leave your company because it's providing you with all sorts of values issues? Really important. And the fourth is sponsorship. These are people inside the company that are going to help you drive your career. And this is not about meeting for coffee and giving you a couple of advice. These are the people that are going to advocate for you. These are the people that are going to give you the stretch assignments. And by the way, every single person that I know, men, women, white, black, whatever, everyone, myself included, has had stretch assignments, meaning assignments in which the company is betting on your potential more than in your capabilities. Which
more than your track record. It's not, well, you've done ABC, it's obvious your next step should be D. It's more, I see that we could actually put you in a different, not obvious next situation or challenge, but I see the potential in you. Is
that's right. And listen, Roger Enrico, one of the first CEO that I worked for at PepsiCo, he was promoted as head of PepsiCo North America when he was 34. 15 years later, he told me, honestly, that was a big stretch assignment. I didn't know what I was doing. If that would have been a woman today or someone of color, people will roll their eyes. Oh, there's a diversity candidate there giving a job that he or she is not capable of. It is an inherent part of career development that if you're going to succeed, you are going to have stretch assignments. So we just have to normalize the thing. So what I developed, which is LEAP, the Leadership Empowerment Acceleration Project, and I have now 18 companies, 10 currently, and 8 that will start in the fall. It is for middle managements, 1 or 2 levels below the CMO, and we are building capabilities on leadership through the Aspen Institute on the humanistic side, through Yale on the quantitative side. I hope that one day we'll have Columbia as well. And then we are creating a community of these people, 44 leaders from 11 different industries in the first cohort. All are in the same level, and they will become a support group for each other. I am personally mentoring the 44 people. I spend 3 one-hour sessions on what is life about in the corporate world, and then each one of the participating CMOs in the company has agreed to become the sponsor of the people that are participating for the next 2 years, so that at least they know that there are 8 people from their companies, high potential, that could fill stretch assignment in the future. That's kind of the approach that I've been taking, David.
That's great. So you've got these 18 companies from diverse industries, and they're each, this is a 1-year program for the individual. Is that right?
It's the program itself is 3 months, okay. But we will keep in touch with, as I have, with the participants for the next 2 years, and we will monitor whether they are still in the company, left the company, were promoted, no, every 6, 12, and 18 months out.
And really designed around fostering and developing and enabling them with these 4 different, key ingredients, as you said, to sort of successful leaders and capability.
That's right. Listen, David, in my
mentorship
career,
with you, sponsorship from their own CMO at their current job. Yeah,
that's right. In my career, I was lucky to have 2 of the 4.
Yeah.
Meaning someone trusted me with stretch assignments and gave me a lot of leadership training. I did not have the sense of community. I learned about community on my last quarter, the last 10 years of my career. And I learned about mentors in the last 10 years of my career. I wish I would have had community and mentors earlier on. My life would have been more meaningful, and all the types of mistakes that I made in life, as you all will, I would have had a much healthier way of dealing with them if I had had that level of community and mentorship that I did not have until the end.
I want to take a couple questions from the folks in the room. Anna Koshinska writes, you talked about the challenge that it can be difficult to rise up along this path. What helps you, she asks, to cope with this? What is your personal advice? And I know actually, I'm thinking of that because I know you shared with me a talk you gave recently, sharing some of the personal learnings you had sort of shared with your mentees through this program, or having gone through the first crop. So maybe, what have you learned from that group? The folks who have gone through this program, and what are, when you talk about those sort of most important lessons you try to impart to them, or they've imparted to you, what might stand out that you could share with us?
Again, challenges everyone. And by the way, if we are the human beings that we're supposed to be, you have work, you have family, you have self. And at any point in time, you're going to have issues on anyone. It's called life. There are going to be magical moments. There are going to be births. There are going to be death. There are going to be sickness. There's going to be moments of exhilaration. It's just life. To address the question directly, there were parts in my career where I felt a bit isolated because I did not have community. I did not have the guidance of a mentor, and I got in trouble because of that. I was diagnosed with chronic depression at one point in time in my career when I was at PepsiCo. It's not that the way that I was living costed, because I have a long lineage of mental illness but I didn't pay attention to the signals. And when I was involved in it, I didn't know how to deal with it. If I would have had a community of people, if I would have had a mentor, it would have been an easier transition. It was probably one of the most important learnings in my life. Yeah. But that's my advice to everyone. Create community, make sure you have mentors, make sure you develop the sponsors internally so that you can deal with at PepsiCo, I had to take some time off. So I remember having a conversation with my boss, who was a sponsor, and telling him, listen, I cannot do international traveling for the next 2 years because I need to change fundamentally my life from medication to new habits, blah, 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 blah. And I got a different sort of job, a job in corporate that I didn't have. So this type of understanding is very important. And the one thing that I want you guys all to avoid is isolation. Mm-hmm. That's the worst thing to do.
Well, really, I want to thank you, Antonio, for such important and moving and insightful perspectives on, what it takes to be, an effective leader today in marketing or any part of the organization, from the kind of challenges that we have to balance, which are very different, as you said, maybe partly from the scale of a business when you have billions of customers, to just the interconnectedness of business and society today, and also the importance for all of us of building these support structures, if you will, capability, community, mentorship, and sponsorship. And as we look around, thinking about these topics that are so important to us and to organizations, and we're all sort of aware of their importance, diversity and inclusion, to recognize it's not just about counting people, it's about really giving them those resources or helping them to put together those connections for themselves as we all look to put them together for our own careers, our own work. So much to take away. Thank you so much, Antonio. And I look forward to talking again soon and having you back at a future BRITE conference with more incredible lessons for all of us.
Would love that. Thank you very much for the opportunity, David. My best to all of you.